It's time for Bringing the Heat with Bryan Nolen.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is another edition of Bringing the Heat. Yours truly is back and better than ever. Bryan Nolen here for you on this week's edition of the program. My man, Steven Stump, he's going to be on the program. We're going to be recapping all the craziness at Talladega. If we have a solution to the fuel saving that we get at Dega and, well, super speedways in general. And then we will also talk about the new format for the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. Later on, actually, we're not going to be later on. It's going to be immediately following this. My conversation with Austin Dillon. He's going to be talking about the latest, just everything that he's been going on throughout the season and more. So without further ado, let's dive on into the Inferno with Austin Dillon.
Now it's time for...
And here it comes with the number 3, 20 years ago. 20 years of trying for Earnhardt. He won the Daytona 500. Austin Dillon wins the 60th running of the Great American Race.
To go into the Inferno with Bryan.
Right now, folks, at this time, going to bring in the program. He's the driver of the number 3 car for RCR. Austin Dillon joined the program. AD, obviously not the season you wanted last year, but it's a brand new start, refresh for you. Just what did you learn last year, bringing it to this year, maybe to rejuvenate yourself and maybe not on stuff, what not to do, and apply it to this year?
Yeah, no, I think we're conditioned, obviously, as a team. After last year, we fought really hard throughout the season to have some decent runs at the end of the year, and then this year hasn't started out great, but, it's just part of the game. First race here at Vegas is the real test, I feel like, to see where we are speed, pace-wise for a mile and a half and kind of take out all the other elements. But, anything can happen in NASCAR, and you start to learn that. But, God's got us, and I feel like we are going to have a great weekend this weekend in Vegas.
A big part of just getting success is your relationship with your crew chief and Keith Rod. And how has that relationship developed over the years? And then how is that relationship building when you're on the racetrack as well as off the racetrack?
Yeah, I think it's our second year together, and I think Keith's kind of knowing what we're trying to get as far as capability in our cars. And if we are able to get to the point where he knows what I'm thinking before I ask for it, I think that's a really good place to be. And, we're not far from that. Justin Alexander and I had a great relationship, and it got to that point, and now we're building that with Keith.
When I talk with other people that are not NASCAR fans, they're like, why is this season... Oh.
Keep asking, I'm listening to you.
Okay, why? They're like, why is the season so long, from February to November? Just how do you guys get not burnt out over...
Sorry, Sam.
How do you guys get not burnt out over so many weeks that you're on the road with only 2 bye weeks?
Well, I mean, this is what we signed up to do, right? We're... you got to love the sport. If you don't, you definitely can have a long season and get burnt out over the time. But you got that 2-month period. You better shut it down and know that in February we're going to get fired up and get going. And now we're all ready. Especially short weeks. After you have a bad week, you're just ready to get back to the racetrack. And it's kind of nice having so many chances at it. And one race really can turn your whole season around. And you know how tight it is. One win makes you a contender for the playoffs.
Looking at now, obviously you brought in a new teammate in Kyle Busch last year. What has he brought to RCR and to help you and help just the organization?
Kyle's an ultimate competitor, especially when it comes to NASCAR. He's 2-time champion. Anytime you can use his knowledge to help your team and your organization, it's a good thing.
Last but not least, what do you need more from your team to get back into the playoff hunt, as well as to contend for top 5s, top 10s, and even potentially wins down the road?
Man, just getting through the first 10 laps this year so far has been tough enough, but really just want to see what we have. I think our pit crew is really strong, and we haven't got to showcase that. Just trying to get some consistency going. We've worked hard at what we can work at, which is the simulator and looking at race history. We just need to get a solid race under our belt, man, and it'll be what the 3 teams should be doing, and that's knocking down top 10s.
Austin Dillon joined the program. Once again, that was diving into the Inferno with my man, Mr. Austin Dillon. Now, let's go on into what is still hot.
What's still hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
What is still hot? I'm going to bring in my co-host this evening. He's been at the past couple races, going to be at Dover this upcoming weekend. He is our content director for all things NASCAR, Mr. Steven Stump, the smartest statistical mind in the NASCAR Media Center, and I can guarantee that. Steven, what's going on, dude? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Drove back from Talladega yesterday, going to be flying out to Dover tomorrow. So it's been a busy week, but, I'm all excited to, be back in the action, back in the saddle again.
I love it. I love it. Now, first and foremost, some scary news that we saw come Sunday evening. Eric Jones was transported to a hospital after the vicious wreck for Legacy Motor Club on Sunday. After that, it was announced on Tuesday that he will not race at Dover this upcoming weekend. He has a fractured vertebrae in his back. Steven, obviously I feel terrible for Eric Jones, but I think the biggest concern, though, is that the infield care center cleared him. So does NASCAR need to reevaluate their infield care center policy? Because I guess I just don't get how they can miss a compression fracture.
I don't completely understand either, but before I get into that, I do want to touch on the wreck quickly first, and kind of just seeing it live happen in the media center. There's just some times where it's like you just have that bad feeling from the moment it happens, and I kind of had that feeling, and so I'm not surprised to hear the news. Obviously, we wish Eric the best. Hope he's, back in action, but takes all the time he needs to heal as well, because obviously a compression fracture there is no joke. But as for the infield care center, I don't know how much I'd say, just because I'm clearly no doctor, but it might. My suspect, of course, my take is that it might have just been a case of adrenaline on his part, and then when it wore off, he came back in and then got sent. I don't completely know, but in terms of the care center like missing something like that, I don't think I'm qualified to say, what they should have done or how did this not happen, because that's truth be told, that's not something I really have an inside look into how it happens either.
That's fair. I do feel like they're gonna go back and look at the process of what they did and how they cleared him, and they're gonna reevaluate a few things, as they should. But big news though, and we wish the best for Eric Jones. Corey Heim will be in that car for at least this upcoming race. He is the Legacy MC's reserve driver. Steven, last but not least, North Wilkesboro, the All-Star race, that is where it's going to be held. They announced the format for the annual All-Star race, this being the second year in a row. 100-lap All-Star Open, 200-lap main event. Here's the interesting thing, though. They're going to have two different tires. They have the prime tire, and then they have the option tire. It's slick tires, but made with the same rubber as the wet weather tires, making it a softer tire with more grip, but it wears faster. Is this a good move, or is this a bad move? And is this potentially the start of what we could see on a regular basis in the upcoming years?
I think it's a great move, because, especially for the All-Star race, because the All-Star race has been that time to experiment with, so many different things. Like, I think back to 2018, when they tried the All-Star race at Charlotte, back when it was in Charlotte, with restrictor plates. Obviously, mixed results on how that happened, but they tried it, and I think that's absolutely the perfect time to try it here for a couple of reasons. Number one, by complete accident, Bristol ended up being incredible just because of that huge amount of tire wear. Drivers had to be smart with how they ran, and it led to a bunch of passing opportunities. There was no issues with aero like we've seen in Martinsville or Richmond or any other track really on the schedule. And so for that reason, I think I was a little bit concerned, because North Wilkesboro wasn't the greatest last year, and with the next gen's woes on short tracks at the moment, there might be some problems there. But I think the fact that they'll have these different tire compounds available and to use, I think it's going to be great, because it's going to it's not going to be exactly like Bristol, but we're going to see a lot of interesting strategy, a lot of, comers and goers through the pack as, the different teams are on the different tires. And so in that regard, I think it's going to be a great race. And as to whether it becomes something that becomes, commonplace in the future or not, I can't say for sure, but there's no way to know until we try it.
Let's dive on into our video segment with our soundbite of the week.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little. I'm gonna bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And short track races.
It's time for the sound bites of the week.
Raises. I mean, is it odd to you just that the fuel savings coming to the play here in Daytona?
It is. I mean, it's tough. I don't really know what else you can do with the way the stages are. You know, we all have the same information and we all know how to beat the system, right? And so for us, it's the box we have, and everybody's playing by the same rules. So it's just whoever does it the best and who works together. So all in all, a great day for us.
Once again, that was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. about fuel saving. And Steven, it feels like when we go to super speedway races now, it's all about saving fuel, and not going all out. And sure, we can see three-wide racing, but you have cars that are going all by themselves and they're making faster lap times. I mean, what can we do for this not to happen?
First of all, front-initiated fans, I will say that I guess the three-wide fuel saving we saw at the beginning was at least interesting, but when you know that the cars are going like as many as there's some cars going 5 seconds off the pace during those first two stages. I don't know. It's just like watching traffic. It's like no one's going as hard as they can. So you're just watching like a bunch of cars going down the interstate, heading into the city for rush hour. And, everyone's just trying to get there, just trying to survive and get there. But with the fuel saving, one idea I've kind of thought of is the stages. So the way the stages currently are in most restrictor pit races for the Cup Series is that they are long enough to where the teams have to make one pit stop for fuel. They cannot make it unless there's like a huge rash of cautions. Then maybe that could, but that would take so many in the first place. But anyway, so because of that, teams are going to be saving fuel, trying to, get the best track position for the start of the next stage. I think one idea there is while this is still an issue, just make the stages short enough to where teams can go the distance in one stage. That way they're going all out. There's no need to really save because, again, like everyone has the exact same opportunity to fill up. But it doesn't exactly solve the end of the race. And I think the main issue is just like the way that the current next-gen cars race on these tracks. You're not able to go through the field like you used to. Like we all saw the end of the race when they were going all out. In the final 10 laps, it was basically Michael McDowell leading the inside line with the Fords behind him and Tyler Reddick leading the outside line with the Toyotas behind him. Like there was a third lane that started to make some progress towards the end, but then it just fell back and went nowhere. So for that those final 10 laps, it was basically those two cars, basically going for the win for the most part. And the teams are valuing that track position and the fuel mileage because if you're not really up front at the end, you can't make your way up there. And not enough people are making moves to just try and get up there because, the most efficient way to do the draft in this is just to push the car in front of you. So I think the issue is I think the fuel saving we're seeing is a symptom, not the cause. I think if the next gen package or the way they race in Super Speedways can be tweaked to where it's easier to make those moves, it's easier to jump out of line, easier to make your way towards the front of the pack, I think we'll see fuel saving go away because the reason we have fuel saving in the first place is because everyone's aiming to be at the front towards the very end, because if they're not towards the front, it's basically a lost cause almost. That's kind of my take at the moment. Obviously, though, we got 3 more super speedways for the rest of the season. Maybe things will get solved, but, again, it's definitely odd seeing that track position is vital at Talladega of all places.
Steven, let's head on into some final thoughts and wrap this bad boy up.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line.
Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Final thoughts are in the air. Whatever you want to rant, rave, or anything in between, Mr. Steven Stump, the floor is yours.
Couple things. I'm looking at Ford's bad start to the year, and they pretty much monopoly at the front of the field by Toyota and Hendrick Motorsports. So for Ford, they've obviously been the fastest. They've obviously been the fastest super speedways. They've combined to lead 379 laps in those races, even though it hasn't resulted in a victory. But at the same time, this is also their first 0-10 start to the Cup season since 2010, where they didn't win until the 21st race of that year. But while they've led a ton of laps in super speedways, in the 7 non-drafting tracks that we've raced at, the Fords have combined to lead 226 laps out of 2,450. For comparison's sake, Martin Truex Jr. led more laps at Richmond by himself than all of Ford has led in the 7 non-drafting races this season. And when we look at the win column, it's Hendrick has 5 wins, JGR has 3, 2311, which is, obviously his close manufacturer tie-ins with JGR through Toyota, has 1. And that means that Daniel Suarez, the Trackhouse at Atlanta, is the only other team to break through. It's been Hendrick, Toyota. They've been dominating the top spots. They've been dominating the win column. They've also dominated the time spent out front, logging those laps in the first place. So my kind of wonder is it going to continue at Dover? And my thought is yes, because Larson's great at Dover. Chase Elliott's won there twice. Byron led the most laps last year but didn't win. Truex has won there 4 times. Hamlin's won there before. I think if we're going to see kind of an outsider, I think it's going to be Ross Chastain, because he's in the next gen races at Dover. Finished 3rd and 2nd. He's led a combined 184 laps in those 2 races. It'd be interesting to see if he can, give a challenge to the top 2 teams in the sport at the moment. But otherwise, I think it's mainly going to be the battle between the names we've seen pretty much all season so far.
For me, I really try my best not to criticize Fox, because I know that they have a job to do and they're trying to deal with everything and they're dealing with the commercials, but it came.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grill taste with perfect toppers. I rule this day. Lettuce, mayo, pickle, ketchup, it's okay if I don't want that Impossible or bacon Whopper, any Whopper my way. You rule your season today at BK. Have it your way. You rule.
Exactly. It felt like commercial after commercial after commercial. And listen, like I said, I know they got to pay the bills, but when you go to a commercial break with 7 laps to go in the stage, like, what are we doing? It feels like the Fox executives don't know what the fans really want. They're all up in their big suites making 6 figures a year by putting little cartoon graphics on the screen, thinking we're all 5 years old and we want to see cartoons. No, we want to see the actual driver photos. We want to see good, hard racing. And for NASCAR, why would you be okay with this? Why would you want to be like, oh, you want to see crazy 3-wide racing with under 10 laps to go on a stage? Nah, let's go to commercial. I mean, it does not make sense. It feels like Fox is not doing what NASCAR wants them to do, and that is to sell the product and sell the product in a fantastic way. And as NASCAR viewers, we should demand better. And it's unacceptable. Now, will it change? Probably not. Will it change after this year? Could be, with the rise of Amazon and Turner. But for now, I think we're just going to have to suck it up, which is a damn shame.
And also, I want to add to that point, obviously I wasn't watching the broadcast because I was there, but didn't it take like 5 minutes or something for a replay to see that Corey even flipped at the end?
I was reading Phil Alloway's Couch Potato about that, and he recorded it on his stopwatch, and it was 7 minutes. 7 minutes to realize that someone flipped on the last lap, not a good look.
No, indeed.
Steven, you are an absolute machine, covering 3 races, I'm pretty sure in a row. Yeah, Texas, Talladega, and now Dover. You also do your stat column, 4 burning questions as well. What else are you going to be cooking up on frontstretch.com, my man?
Well, I'll be having my usual 4BQ tomorrow night. And I will also be doing a special Fire on Fridays, which is normally written by Michael and Anthony Damcott. And basically, I'm going to be discussing what I just talked about, and how, because of the way the cars race at Talladega, suddenly track position becomes the key there. And it's like fuel strategy is, great. It's great to see at certain tracks. Pit strategy is great, but fans don't come to Talladega to see pit strategy. They come here to see, three-wide racing or, cars double file, cars going all out. I know they're not going to go all out the entire race, obviously, even if, track position wasn't a thing. But I think there's definitely some fans that are, I guess, a little fed up with what we've been seeing out of these tracks in the last, year or two. And so I'm definitely going to, write about that and, take more of an angle on it.
Once again, at Steven_Stump, big thanks to him for coming on the program. Big thanks to Trey Lau. I mean, listen, Trey Lau has to deal with me, and it's not as easy as probably a lot of people think. So I might as well give him a shout out at Trey Lau VT on the X. So big thanks to Trey for putting up with me and then producing this as well. Once again, Through the Gears, my man Tino's got all the latest betting odds. That's going to be the next podcast in the Front Stretch Podcast Networks. And then you got Stock Car Scoop with Adam Cheek. And don't forget about Happy Hour coming up 1 week from, or should I say 1 week from yesterday that we are recording this upcoming Tuesday. We're going to be having I think a pretty familiar face, a little reunion of sorts. I'm not gonna share who it is, but I think everybody will be pretty happy about it. But enough about me rambling. For Steven Stump, Trey Lyle, I am Brian Timothy Nolen. We'll talk with you next week to recap Dover.
Hey everyone, Dalton Hopkins here with FrontStretch.com. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out one of the 2 videos next to me to see more of our racing content.